The twists and the turns of the world of Alex Murdaugh. It just keeps churning away new pieces that we all kind of scratch our heads at and go, how does all this tie in? Another piece just coming out very recently. The son of South Carolina clerk of court, Becky Hill, that's the one we've been talking about for quite some time now, who is having alleged to have tampered with the jury. Of course, still haven't had an evidentiary hearing, innocent until proven guilty, but her son now has been arrested on wire tampering charges. Yes, willfully and feloniously intercepting electronic phone communications between two people. Authorities say that Hill misused his county position to listen to conversations between two people. They don't really go into detail about what the conversation was about, if it connects to Alex Murdaugh, if it connects to Becky Hill whatsoever. But he has been now released on $20,000 bond. A SLED spokesman said the arrest is in tandem with the Public Integrity Unit of the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office, which works on public corruption. One which I would imagine is probably looking in a bit to Becky as well to see if those allegations are in fact true. Joining me to discuss, Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent. Again, another thing in this building, top down, we've been talking about it. Seems to be a lot of things that go on behind the scenes there that really shouldn't be.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That and I believe very firmly in a few things, and because we talk about our behavior arcs, our behavior that we exhibit and that people see generally kind of diffuses to the people around us in our environment as well, especially family members. Generally, when there's smoke, you wonder if there's fire,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw this with Murdoch's own family that abnormal and unhealthy behavior seems to diffuse outward because if you're surrounded by it day in and day out, that becomes your normal. And so it's very easy to do this thinking it's a pattern of life that people do every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it'll be interesting to see what's going on with the sun because it's just another data point. Another thing I think it's also really important that just sparked in my mind when you started sharing her son's issue. I was a big believer in this in the FBI. And inside big bureaucratic organizations, there are so many rules, processes, regulations. And anytime you're dealing with a bureaucracy like the court system, counties, states, the country, there are more rules than one human being could possibly ever follow 100% of the time, ethically, morally,
Mm-hmm.
intentionally, unintentionally, ever. It is
Sure.
just that burdensome. I mean, just do that own thought experiment. Our it's called a diag for us. It's an operational guideline. It's like this thick
Mm-hmm.
for FBI. And it's our rules and regulations for checks and balances and everything. So I always operated from a very simple philosophy of this: if you do your utmost and you do your best and you're reasonable in your actions, because courts are always about reasonableness, and you're reasonable in your actions and you can articulate what your intent was and what actions you were taking in furtherance of that intent. And the intent you have is to take care of your bosses, take care of what the mission is, and do all these things outwardly focused, not on yourself. People will generally be on your side. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to come at you. And so now we have two people in the same family that people are trying to get. That to me is very indicative of it's it's just interesting.
It is.
um
I mean, when you're talking earlier about how people see the norm, if you will, through their prism of what they have been led to believe, what they've been conditioned with, basically. And if you have not been out of that bubble, some very abnormal things, maybe even illegal things, uh, may not stand out to you as being wrong because, well, so and so did it over here, and my boss did it over here at one time, which is kind of how I was brought up. And yeah,
Mhm.
there's the rules, but we kind of do work this way, and everything, I guess, normally for a long time in that area ran smoothly, so to speak, depending on what side of the smooth you're on. Um, when you have this sort of thing happen, I mean, smoke, fire, yeah, it doesn't look good. Of all the people right now to be arrested on something like this, uh, yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. If it really has nothing whatsoever to do with Murdaugh, or if there is some sort of connection here.
Regardless whether it has any connection to Murdoch or not, we're seeing a pattern of behavior that, especially when you're dealing with children of people that are in positions of trust, no one's born doing something wrong.
Hmm.
We adapt the patterns of our life and behavior from those things and people we see around us, and that becomes our norm, like you said. And he's got behaviors that he's observed as being normal for what he did.
Hmm.
So if you're, guarantee you, if you were to ask anyone that's being accused of doing something wrong, if they were just following what everyone else ever did around them, they're saying, "I didn't do anything wrong. Look, he does it. He does it. She does it."
Hmm.
So that becomes norm, especially if you're doing something that's kind of not really articulated well, and it's kind of a moral and ethical choice because we've seen this all the time. Just because something is unethical and immoral doesn't make it illegal.
Sure.
And so when you get people that see that kind of gray area, they're the ones that kind of flitting down the middle, kind of falling off on this side, kind of staying on this side. And it just, but what he's doing a major disservice to his mother, hands down, because what you just did was you just brought more attention
Hmm.
to the mother, which is now defending herself against the accusations. And so the more time you have more eyeballs and people that are trying to get you, not trying to exonerate you,
Hmm.
you stand a hard chance to stand up to that scrutiny. You
Yeah.
really do.
I mean, there's so many interesting things on Murdaugh today that I kind of realized when ran through the numbers of the financial crimes charges
I did the
that
same thing.
he has faced and he's admitted guilt to. At the end of the day, when you break this all down, he's likely to get about 22 to 23 years total, all said and
Yep.
done. The question I had for a while was, okay, there's still another 100 charges. Well, guess what? They all get dismissed as part of this plea deal. There are no more 100 charges. So the only other charge as of right now, knowing Alex Murdaugh, I wouldn't be surprised if other things did pop up at some point in time. But as of right now, it's the murder charges, which
Yeah.
we are now looking at very seriously. If he goes back to trial, he could be acquitted on. And everything has kind of been leaning in the middle of maybe there'll be a new trial, maybe there won't, depending on what the jurors say. But now you add this one into it. It certainly leans in Murdaugh's favor. And if he were to be acquitted and have that whole life sentence wiped out, you're talking about Murdaugh being free in about 22 to 23 years. This is the man everybody said, oh, he'll rot in jail no matter what. I think he knew all along that this is how it was going to settle out. And that's a reason for some of his confidence in prison.
Yeah. And also, I don't think that includes possibility of parole. So he actually
Yes.
has parole possibility as well.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening right now, if you ever have a family loved one, there's someone you care about that does something really heinous, these are the two lawyers you want on your side.
It's a big ad for Jim and Dick. Yeah.
This is when I was reading this, I read the same things you're reading today, Tony, in preparation for this great conversation, and I was flabbergasted. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Yeah.
You could see it. You could see what they've been doing from the very beginning. They have designed this defense from the very get go around what they're going to try to do to get him to have the least amount of jail time possible for being convicted for killing his wife and son.
Yeah.
This is absolutely unbelievable. These two defense attorneys are geniuses.
Yeah. I mean, where this could all go. I mean, there's reality is stranger than fiction many
It
times, and
is.
it certainly is in this case. Another point of this very soon, the people that he wronged, his victims, the financial crime victims anyway, will be able to face him in court and give their own victim impact statements directly to Alec. Uh, how do you think that will go? Will that make an impact on Alec? Is Alec even able to receive that sort of information and process it in any way? Or is this really more so for those individuals to able to try and get that sort of closure through such a dramatic time in their life?
So it's important for the victims. This it's their moment,
Hmm.
but he's not playing for their moment. He's playing for the acquittal.
Yeah.
And what you're going to see is, I think he is a smart guy. No matter how wrongly he's executed his life, And I think what he did was he probably learned a lot from the feedback he got from the fake tears and the blubbering nose in the courtroom, and he's going to get better.
Mhm.
I think he's in this cell right now practicing how to respond emotionally appropriately, to be contrite, to be remorseful, because that's why he admitted guilt to this, because he's got a sweet plea deal, and what he's playing to right now is the next jury for the retrial of the murder.
Yeah,
That's exactly what he's doing.
he's trying to become a likable character. He's trying to
Yep.
become a pitiful character where, oh, feel bad for this guy. He did all these things, but he owned up to it. And no, he didn't kill his wife and kids. So that's, and then 22, 23 years and he's out. I mean, that is the strategy right there.
I think part of that strategy, again, the conjecture I
Mhm.
would most, at least that seems logical in my mind, although I don't have the nearly 50-pound brain that all these other people seem to have. He's going to blame a lot on drug addiction, I would imagine,
Yeah.
because when you're not in your right mind because of that, and you can show contrition and turning a new leaf over at this point, and you combine that with, retrial on, if it happens, a retrial on the murder charges, that is an arc that a jury can emotionally attach to, especially if it's in the area that knows him well,
Yeah.
on a positive way, in a positive side. So it's, I can't believe what we're witnessing. It's pretty remarkable.
Every day, something new, something extreme. And this one dropping today, it was just, yeah, what next? Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you want more of our interview with our guests, be sure to check out our podcast, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Just search that wherever you download podcasts and press subscribe. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel for the full video version of the interviews as well, under the same name, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Check it out, subscribe, binge, and enjoy. Thanks for watching.